All right, family covenant for the modern age, but Ezra. In the book of Ezra, we see God's people facing a conundrum that many of us face to this day, dealing with the aftermath of our sin. God's people had disobeyed him and married pagan wives. How should a man repent of this? Should he divorce his wife and commit to following God wholeheartedly from now on? Or should he keep his marriage and children and try to atone for his sin a different way? The story is found in Ezra chapters 9 and 10. After Ezra laments over the sins of the people, a man named Shechaniah suggests, "Now let us make a covenant before our God to send away all these women and their children, in accordance with the counsel of my Lord and of those who fear the commands of our God." Ezra accepted his suggestion and put all the people under oath to carry this out. "You have been unfaithful. You have married foreign women, adding to Israel's guilt. Now honor the Lord, the God of your ancestors, and do his will. Separate yourselves from the peoples around you and from your foreign wives." A few verses later, we see a fascinating detail. Only Jonathan, son of Asahel, and Jahaziah, son of Tikvah, supported by Meshullam and Shabbethai, the Levite, opposed this. I couldn't pronounce those names very well. Only those two guys opposed that idea of sending their wives away. Right? The text doesn't tell us why they opposed this. Were they just apathetic and wanted to keep their foreign wives? Or was it a spiritual reason? Nowhere in the text does it say what God's opinion on the matter was. Was God angry that they had broken his rules? Yes. Did God want them to divorce their wives? We don't know. But someone should have stood up and reminded the people of Israel's history. When Israel first entered the land 1500 years earlier, he entered with an idol-worshipping wife. Rebecca, remember? When Israel was being led through the desert by their great leader Moses, he had a Cushite wife. When they entered the land under Joshua, Rahab, the foreign prostitute, was given a place within God's people. And not only that, she also became Boaz's mother. Then Boaz himself married a Moabite who became the great grandmother of King David. So by the time of Ezra, Israel had already been thoroughly saturated with foreign blood. Did that mean it was okay to marry foreign wives? No. But doubling down on our mistakes doesn't fix anything. They should have given the foreign wives a choice. Do you want to follow the true God and stay with us, or do you want to leave? Judging by the last paragraph in the book of Ezra, it doesn't seem like they gave them this choice. So the exiles did as was proposed. Ezra the priest selected men who were family heads, one from each family division, and all of them designated by name. On the first day of the 10th month, they sat down to investigate the cases, and by the first day of the first month, they finished dealing with all the men who had married foreign women. Notice that the text doesn't actually say any wives were sent away. It simply says that they finished dealing with the men who had married foreign women. The odd thing about Shechaniah's suggestion was that the children also had to be sent away. Perhaps he was thinking of Abraham sending away Hagar and Ishmael. After all, God had sided with Sarah's command to expel the slave woman and her son, for the slave woman's son will never share in the inheritance with my son Isaac. But what made Sarah so angry that she would command her husband to send away the very woman she had given him as a wife? That's right, she had actually given Hagar to him as his wife. Sarai took her Egyptian maidservant Hagar and gave her to Abram to be his wife. That's what the text says. After Hagar got pregnant, she began to despise Sarah. Then Sarah treated her so harshly that she fled into the wilderness. Then God met her and told her, "Return to your mistress and submit to her authority." She did. Then about 15 years later, Sarah and Hagar had another conflict. What was the trigger? It was when Sarah saw Ishmael mocking Isaac. Perhaps Ishmael had inherited this trait from his mother, who had despised Sarah years earlier. When Paul is writing to the Galatians, he says that Ishmael persecuted Isaac. We tend to overlook this when we read the story of Sarah and Hagar. Maybe Hagar wasn't as innocent as we make her out to be. Is it possible that the whole family could have stayed together if Hagar had taught her son to not mock his brother? Notice that the birth of Isaac wasn't the reason Hagar got sent away. It was Ishmael's sin that got them sent away. Again, we tend to write God's opinion into the story. We think since God sided with Sarah, he must have wanted the family to split apart. But we don't need to take these kinds of steps when we read the Bible. We don't have to assume that God likes everything he allows. So regardless of whether Ezra and the leaders actually sent away the foreign wives, we can be confident that God didn't take pleasure in the brokenness because he never wanted them to be in that situation in the first place.